Hey guys, Eric Agorno here with Performance Golf Zone. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to shallow the club and hit longer drives. I'm going to show you how to shallow the club, give you some key checkpoints and a drill to use so you guys can start hitting the ball a lot longer and straighter next time you guys go play. So in terms of the downswing, when we're talking about shallowing the club, let's first define what that means. So if I take my normal setup, and at address, I drew a line, if you could imagine, through my club, up through my body. That would make sort of a plane line. So when we're giving golf lessons, oftentimes, we'll draw that line that produces a plane in space. Now, that's important to understand that the best golfers who hit the ball the farthest and straightest, typically, if you would imagine that line was there, that club head and club would work up that plane line, pretty much on it or parallel to it, and would start to work basically right back down on that plane line. If you can imagine a perfect plane or a perfect circle around my body, they wouldn't deviate much from that line, both back or down. Now that's perfect in utopia for them, but for us sometimes we go off that line a little bit. Now certainly the more common error off that line would be you during the downswing would be above that line, or you'd be over that line or over the top. And that's killer both for direction and mostly for distance. So if we are above that line too far this way, we need to learn how to shallow the club, which means it would go from whatever angle I am from at the top onto a lower angle. So here's me here, here's a lower angle shallowing the club during the downswing to get myself back on that line that I went back on. Now the best players typically are either on that line or on that circle line back down, or they're slightly underneath it. And there's definitely a lot of advantages to being slightly underneath it with the driver. Easier to hit up on the ball, easier to produce more speed, hit the ball farther, and have that beautiful draw that we all want. So how do we go about doing that? Well, before I show you the practice station, let me give you some reference points. If I go to the top of my backswing and I pause, let's talk wrist conditions first. So at the top of my swing, my back of my left hand points this way and slightly upward, so to the left instead of the upward. My right palm points to the left and slightly upward. Now, if I wanted to shallow the club or make it go on a lower angle, my hands would have to work in this fashion. So what just happened there? From here's my starting point. As I work down, my back of my left hand got more up towards the sky, and my right palm went more up towards the sky. Now the opposite of that would be true. Here's the top. If I were over the top or I steepened it, which would be bad, my hands would work in this fashion. Notice the back of my left hand went more to the side. My right palm went more toward the side. Again, if I wanted to shallow, I wouldn't have my back of my hand and right palm work more down. That would tip the shaft over. Bad news for us. I'd have the back of my hand work more up towards the sky. Almost you could imagine you could place something on the top of my back hand, it would stay there, or my right palm would be more up. Notice the angle that the shaft takes when I do that. Those would be simple little feels that I would use in terms of my hands compared to normal. The same thing is true then for my arms and my forearms. So if I start normal at the top, my left elbow's down towards the ground, my right elbow's some amount down towards the ground. If I shallow the club, notice what happens with my arms. Both of my elbows would start to point more in this direction. If I steepened the club, see how my elbows would work more down towards the ground, or actually behind me if I were to steepen the club. If I shallow the club, my elbows go from down to pointed away from me, from down to away from me. That would be another way that you can feel the shallowing of the club. I like a lot of people to have cues like that, and also just have an awareness and feeling of where the club head is in space. If you're a golfer who comes down and your club head gets any amount over the top or steepened this way, to get it back on a normal plane or shallowed out, you have to feel like it's so unbelievably far behind you during the downswing. I'm talking a normal slicer at the top. It's gonna have to feel like the club is like a mile back here behind you and when you swing in, so that it's even close to that line. We're talking huge exaggerations. Those are some simple checkpoints at the top. For some of you, it'll be that simple, just an awareness of that. For some, you're gonna need more. So how can we have more and how can we fix that? Well, the best drill that I use to help shallow it. And we're on a mat here, so I'm gonna use a bucket and an alignment rod. I'll set it up here and then I'll explain how I have it set up. Basically what I wanna do is I wanna put something in my way during the downswing that makes me swing from the inside and underneath them. There's several drills that work here, this being my favorite one. Now, let's talk about how this is set up before I talk about how it works. If I took my normal setup position, I always like to kind of pose it where, you know, if I took a normal takeaway, the club's on my toe line, that'd be a neutral takeaway position. I typically like to give myself several inches there. I could move it slightly more towards myself, would be okay, but I give myself several inches there, meaning I wouldn't set up and have it so far inside that it would be down here, and I wouldn't set up where it was so far away from me that it would make no difference at all. I'd give myself a few inches from here, maybe 4, 5, 6 inches from there. And the angle that I have it on can adjust depending upon how far away. The point being, during my downswing, if I make a swing and come underneath the stick and feel what I need to feel to get the club head working more from inside, I'll miss the stick. I'll have a shallower downswing approach. My angle of attack will be better and I'm gonna hit better shots. If from the top I come too far over the top, I'm gonna certainly run into that stick, maybe even go to the outside of it. If you haven't done this before, maybe you throw a little pool noodle on, or you do something a little bit softer than an alignment rod to begin with. So that's how we would set that up. From the face-on part, typically, again, I'll kind of pose the same thing. I want to put it far enough in this direction where the stick is maybe halfway down the shaft. I don't want it to be so close that I would run into it with my hands. That's basically the setup alignment. You can play with that a little bit. The point being, if I'm going to go ahead and hit a shot, I want to feel the club head working, again, from the top. The club's more behind me, working lower to the ground sooner and having a nice shallow angle of approach. May or may not feel some of those hands, forearm, or elbow pieces. So let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to do 1 or 2 rehearsals to kind of feel where that club head needs to be for me. And I'm going to go ahead and try one here. And there I had a nice shallow downswing, hit a good shot for me. And I'm trying to retain, hey, what does this feel like for me with this here? So for me, I feel like the hand's a little lower, the club's on a little bit more of a lower angle to the ground this way for me compared to normal. And I'm trying to retain those feels. Those are the feels that I'm gonna go play golf with. So whatever feel I have with that, if it produces the results I want, that's what I wanna play with. It doesn't matter if it's technically correct or not. It's just that it produces the shots. You wanna do this enough in practice where you have a feel that produces the pattern that you want. And then again, that's what you go play golf with. So that's how you shallow out the downswing. Of course, there's some setup and backswing pieces that you'd want to look at to help influence that. But from the top of the swing, those are the hand positions. Watch those elbow positions. Set this practice station up as a feedback device to help shallow it. It'll help you hit longer and straighter drives. Hopefully that all makes sense. Hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please click the like button, click the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave us a comment down below if you guys have any questions.